Right, so hello everyone. So welcome to SparkCode and thank you for joining the lesson today. So my name is Bowen and I'm going to take you through your first coding lesson. Okay, so here in SparkCode we're going to be doing programming, and programming is basically a really powerful tool for you to create a lot of programs, so such as games or maybe some application that you're using. And I really can't wait to show you guys what we can make with programming. And so programming might sound really complicated, but it's not really that complicated. And let's start off with making the game today. So today we're going to be making a snake game. Okay, so um, we're going to be doing a simplified version of the snake game. And let's see what a snake game is before we start. So here you can see there's a snake, obviously, and it's not catching, but eating the apple. So basically, that's what you're trying to do today with me. And I'm going to take you through the first half of the lesson, and then we're going to go to the second half of the lesson later on. Okay, so let's get started right away without further ado. Right. So programming today, we're going to be using Makecode Arcade, and it's going to allow you to make console games easily. And some console games would be, for instance, the Snake game. Okay, so it's really easy to get started with. And after you learn the basics here at SparkCode, then hopefully you can make your own games and to make your own programs. Okay, so we're going to be making the sprite and creating a background for the game. Then we're going to control the sprite. So that's going to be our first half of the lesson. Then we're going to make food, which could be eaten by the snake. Okay, but we're going to be using a dog today. So that's a spoiler. And we're going to be setting win and lose conditions and the score system. Okay, so how do computers work? So here, when you're programming or making a game with me, like here on Makecode Arcade through SparkCode, you'll be using a computer, which is a laptop or a computer, basically, like the big ones. Okay, so we call that desktop computers. But anyway, or you can use an iPad or even your phone. They're really powerful computers as well. But anyway, the computers work by having an input, a function, and an output. So in simple terms, input is basically the button or the thing that you press or uh, you know, activate, whatever you call that. Then so for example, we have the rice cooker. So I think you're not unfamiliar with a rice cooker. You have it every day. So maybe you press the button of the rice cooker, and it's gonna cook the rice. So the button is the input. Then we have the function. Now the function is the program that you're putting in. Okay, so what you're making is essentially the function. Okay, so the function is the program to check whether the rice is cooked. No, sorry, the rice cooker is closed. So that could be done through maybe some sensors or some programs. Okay, we're not gonna go into that, but that's the idea. Now we have the output. So output is what's gonna happen after you process the function. So here, after we check that the rice cooker is closed, then we would start cooking the rice as the output. So that's pretty simple to understand. Let's look at the second example here. So the input here is that maybe we'll push the door, so the door will close. Then we have the function, which is to check for obstacles, whether there's anything that's blocking the door to close. If there's not any obstacles, right, then we would close the door as the final output. Okay, so I hope that's not too difficult to understand. And here in Makecode, we have the input here. So that's the buttons. So A and B, maybe you can jump or shoot or whatever. That's in your game. We have this over here. Then you can move your sprite, which is the character basically of the game. So that's the controller. And then here you can start or make the sound, do some modifications, changes. Maybe you want to be louder or whatever that is, then you can use the input. Okay, so here's the function. That's what you're going to be doing with me. Okay, you will be making the function, you'll be writing the program, and it's really easy to get started with. So basically, after you press the input, which is to start the program, then we have the functions here. The computer will run through the function. Then the output here, you can see what the functions are trying to say. Then you can see it in the output. So for example, if we have, let's say, splash hello world, so that's pretty straightforward. You want to basically splash the hello world on the screen. So that's the function. After the computer processes it, then you have the output on the screen. You see hello world. So that's basically how it works. Okay, so that's oops, that's a spoiler for you. And then let's get right into making the program. Okay, so here we have a make code sorry, arcade.makecode.com. So here you go into this website, then yeah, you can make a new project. We have quite a few games already waiting for you to try out in our future lessons. But let's start our first project. Let's call it lesson 1, or the snake game. Okay, snake game. So that's a pretty cool name to start off with, right? Here, you can see the layout just like what you saw in the PowerPoint. Okay, so maybe you want to wait for it to load. Then, so here you can see that after it loads, there's nothing on the screen, obviously, because you haven't write anything for the functions. So here you can see there's an input. Okay, so here on start. Okay, on start, that's basically what happens after you start the program. So as soon as you start the program, then whatever that's in on start will show. So what I mean is, for example, we have scene over here. So let's go to scene. Okay, so you can see you can set background color to something, set background image to something. We can basically drag it and then just put it inside. You can see it's like a puzzle. You can just put it in, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so here we can choose the background from the gallery maybe. So from the gallery you can so here you can see there's like a lot of different backgrounds for you to choose from. So let's pick for example okay, so anyone would do. Basically they're the same. Let's do this one then. All right, so it looks pretty nice. So let's choose it, and then we have that. Okay, so let's test out the program right away, and that's how simple the program can do. So here you can see here over it, you have the arrow, so that's the stop button. You stop the simulator, and then you see it runs through the program, and then there's the screen with the background image that you chose. Okay, so that's pretty simple. And let's drag this away from OnStart, and let's run the program again. And you can see there's nothing, obviously, because it's not in the OnStart thing. So let's try again. And yeah, you get that. You get that background. So that's pretty interesting. Now, it's quite boring to just have this background, right? So maybe you want to create a sprite then. So the sprite here, if you go to the sprites tab, you can basically make the character. Okay, so maybe we want to drag it here. So we want to set my sprite to sprite something of kind player. So here we want to choose the sprite. So we want to choose what are we going to be using as the character. As I said, we're going to be using a dog, but that's up to you. Okay, so you can draw your character or whatever that is. But here today, we're just going to go into the gallery. You can see we have different characters to choose from. And so let's see if there's any dogs. I believe there is. But we have to find it. Okay, so we have the dog. Oops, we've skipped the dog then. So okay, here it is. So there you go. There's the dog. That's pretty cute. Then you just press done. Okay. So that's how you do it. Now you want to move the sprite as well. You want to move it so you can see it. So there's the dog here, and I'm gonna move with buttons. Okay, so no matter if it's these buttons over here or your keyboard on your computer. If you don't know what a keyboard is, it's basically the buttons on your computer physically, as in the real buttons. Okay, if you're using an iPad and there isn't any keyboards or buttons to press, then you have to rely on this button over here. Okay, so let's try to run the program and see if we can move the dog. So you can see as I move as I move at the stick, then the dog moves. Or if I use my keyboard, then the dog moves as well. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? So that's basically a part of your game done already. And okay, so here we have another problem. The dog, you can see that it can leave the screen basically, and you don't know where it is, and you can't really track it. Okay, so you can find it back. But anyway, we don't want that to happen. We don't want to find the dog. So what we can do is that we can go to sprites. Then we can go to here, stay in the screen. So this is basically the screen. We want to stay in it. So we can do that. And then as you can see, it's on. So basically it works. And let's see a difference. Okay, so here. As I wanted to move the dog, you can see, oops, it couldn't because the in screen is on. Okay. So that's basically part one of making the game. Okay, so let's go to the recap over here. So recap. And okay. So here. If you're interested, then you can obviously go to this link. It's in the description of the video. You can just press it and then you can get this set of code. Okay. And so let's do a recap then, shall we? So here in the on start, so we put everything in the on start to start off with. As we start the game, then all of these items would basically work. So we have the background image to be that whatever picture that you chose. Then you have the dog, the buttons, you can move the dog, and obviously the dog will stay in the screen. So that's quite a lot we've done already. And we can basically move on to the next part in the next video. Okay, so in the first half of the lesson, we've made this chunk of code over here. So we have set the background image to the starry background, and then we have the dog as the player. We have the buttons to move the dog, and then we want the dog to stay in the screen. So that's the first part of the lesson. So in the second half of the lesson, we will be continuing on the snake game and hopefully to finish the game. Okay, so we are going to start off with making the food for the dog to eat. Okay, so what we have now is this. Okay, so the dog can move, it stays in the screen, and we want the dog to have something to eat. So let's say we're adding a drumstick for the dog. Okay, so let's say we have another sprite basically. So drumstick. Okay, cool. So we have a drumstick, and here you can see we don't want it to be player anymore. We want it to be food. Okay, so and we can also rename the characters so it's easier for us to know which one is which. As we have two sprites now, then it's really complicated for us to figure out which is which. So let's say dog. So rename with drumstick. And that's pretty much it. Now let's go to a really important concept in programming. Okay, so and before that, we can look at the screen. You can see if we move, the dog moves, but the drumstick does not move. Okay, so let's go to the if condition then. So what's an if condition? Now, if condition is basically if something here is true, then we would have the codes inside the if loop to be processed. Okay, so basically what that means is, for example, we have if 4 plus 1 is larger than 6 minus 2. Now 4 plus 1 is 5, and 6 minus 2 we know is 4, right? And 5 is greater than 4. So this is true. Therefore, what's inside this if loop, which is the set background image to something, would be working just fine. So let's see. Now, a trick for you is you can basically just drag it outside of the onStart. You can keep the code here. When you need it, you can drag it in again. But if not, then it won't work. So you can see the screen is like darkened, which is what we want. So here. So we drag from logic, we have the if, and from logic we can also find this comparison hexagon. You can see it's really like a puzzle. You can just drag it in because we have the same shape. So let's say we have 5 and we have 4. Okay, then we have greater. Okay. Then we want to set the background. Let's say we set the background color to something. Okay, so we want to set it to red. Okay. Then we run the code. Then it's gonna go red because this is true. Now, what if we change to 5 less than 4, which is not true? So if that's the case, then there should be nothing inside. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the if loop. And here another trick for you is we don't want this if loop. We're just using it for showing you what an if loop is. So we want to just drag it here, and it's gone. Okay, so now we're going to look at another type of loop, which is forever loop. Now, forever loop is basically whatever that goes in the forever loop, it will run forever until the program stops running. So that's forever loop. It's pretty easy to understand, and we're going to look at an example of how we can use forever loop with an if loop. So let's drag this back into it. Okay, so we have the forever loop here. Okay, and you can see here, you can press the minus button to make these to be like smaller so you have more space to use. Okay, right. So you can see that the dog overlaps, right? Overlaps with the chicken leg. And basically what you want to do is that as the dog overlaps with the chicken, not the chicken wing, sorry, the drumstick, then you want the drumstick to like respawn, or there's like go away, that kind of stuff. So we can use a function called overlap. But before that, we will need to make sure that we know what we're doing. So what we want to do is that if they overlap, then maybe the drumstick will go elsewhere. So let's see how we can do this. Okay, so let's say we want to put the if loop here. We want to go to sprites. We have what do we have? We have overlap. And now what we can do is we want to do my sprite is going to be dog. That should be okay. Drumstick. So if the dog overlaps with the drumstick, then what can we do? What can we do? Maybe we want the drumstick to go away. But if we go away, we want it to go to another position. Okay, so here we need another concept. How do we locate, or how do we specify, or to just say the locations on the screen? Here we have the coordinate system. Now the coordinate system in programming, if you've learned coordinate system already, and maybe maths, it's not the same as the programming coordinate system here in Makecode. So be careful. But here, let's focus on the coordinate system for Makecode. So you can see there's an x-axis and y-axis. Now the x-axis is the horizontal axis. So, and the y-axis is the vertical one. So you can see the top left corner, that's what we call 0, 0. 0 is the position 0 for the x-axis, as in horizontally speaking, and then the y-axis, this is also 0 because it's like the top, right? So as it goes towards the right-hand side in the Makecode platform, then the x coordinate, we say, would increase, and the y coordinate, as it goes down, it will go up as well. So let's say if this is 0, 0, then this could be like maybe 80, and oh sorry, like if we're talking about maybe this location here, this star, for example, it could be like around 80 and then like 40, that maybe like 30 for the y coordinate and 80 for x coordinate. And that's how we relocate the coordinates. Okay, so let's go to this part over here. And we can set the position. Okay, so we can set the drumstick. We want to move the drumstick. And here we can pick a random kind of number here. So we can also put it in. A random is basically like you don't know what number will go. Every time it's going to be a different number. Okay, so we want to pick random from 0 to 160, let's say. Or maybe we can do 150 and then maybe 10 over here. And y, we can do the same for y. We can say it's from let's say 10 to 70 then. Oh, sorry, 10 to 110. Okay. So let's see what that means. Okay, so let's touch the drumstick. It's going to move elsewhere. So that's successful. And you can see because it's random, so every time it's going to be different. Okay, so that's the second part of the game. And let's move on to the third part then. If you want the checkpoint for this second part of the game, then you can refer to this link in the description of the video. Okay, so let's add a scoring system. So as you've played many games, there's a score. Okay, there's a score. So let's say we have info here. So we can set the score here. You can see we can set the score to 0. So basically what that means is that the game starts off with 0 points. And you can see the top right-hand corner here. There's the number, that's the score. And here the objective is that maybe if the dog touches the drumstick every time, it's going to add like 1 point. So we can do that by changing the score by 1. Okay, so let's see how that works then. So okay, so as it goes, then it changes, right? It goes up by 1 point. But then now I realize an issue is that because they spawn in the same position to start off with, so that's like 1 point already for them. Now there's a number of solutions to that, but the easiest solution would be to set the chicken leg, not the chicken leg, the drumstick position to a certain point. Okay, and here if you double click the code, you can see duplicate. So that's like to copy the entire thing, and you can put it here. So now we don't want to put random. Now random, nah, we're not gonna do random. You can just say like, for example, x is oh, here you can see you can basically just choose it like this. So maybe we choose this one. Okay. So every time it's going to start at like this position. Okay. And this game will work. Cool. So how do we win this game then? So let's say maybe we want to have like 15 points, then we're gonna win this game. So we don't want this game to like last forever because it's not gonna end. So for example, we can have another if loop then. Very straightforward. So we can say if score. You see, you can choose score is 15. Okay. Then you can go to game. Then you can say game over. Okay, game over. So that's the end of the game, and you can toggle to win. So you win the game. So let's see how it works. All right, so let's try to play this game and see what happens if we get like 15 points. So now we have 9, we have 10, we have 11, we have 12, we have 13, we have 14, 15. Okay, so you win. Score 15. So that's how you win the game. Okay, so but then if you realize, then there's like, okay, let's do this again. Because now look at the top right hand corner as I play this game. Towards the very end of the game, then you can see, although we say like we want 15 points to win, it's gonna show 14. And that's because the program stops as soon as there's like game over. So what we can do is we can have a little bit of a delay. So that's going to be loop here. So we want to pause for a bit, for example. So let's say we want to pause it by 0.5 seconds, and you can see a difference. Basically, what that means is if it reaches 15 points, it's going to pause for a moment. After it pauses for a moment, that's gonna go to game over. As in, when it pause, then there's going to be enough time for the computer to increase the point shown on the top right corner of the screen to 15 before it ends the game to show game over. And let's see. So you see, there's 15 now because there's enough time for the computer to update the score, basically. So, okay, so that's basically it for the game. There's a win condition. We have the food, we have the dog, we can move the dog and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it for how a snake game will work. Okay. So to recap then, we have two main parts. Part one is the on start. So here, when we start the game, we set the score to 0. We have the background, we have the dog, we move the dog with buttons. We want the dog to stay in the screen. We have not the chicken leg, okay, but then the drumstick, and then the position, we start at a certain point so it doesn't overlap. So that's part one. Part two, forever loop. We have the if the dog overlaps with the drumstick, then it will change the score by 1, and then it will set the drumstick to another position, which is random. So every time it's going to be different, and that's the point of the game. When it reaches 15 points, we want to pause the program for a moment so that there's enough time to update the score shown on the screen. Then we're going to end the game by showing that you win the game. Okay. Now, here's some challenge tasks for you that you are going to be doing it. You're going to investigate or to learn how the platform works by trying out different functions. So maybe we can add some sound effects. So what happens if you touch the drumstick? Maybe there's like some eating sound, some sound of like eating or like anything you like. Go as creative as you want. And how can a player possibly lose? Is it that maybe there is going to be like another sprite, which if you touch it, then there's going to be like losing lives or whatever that is. Maybe a bomb to like that points. That's another good idea. You might want to add some lives, as I said, and there could be time limits. Okay, so you can add a timer. So maybe there's like a 1 minute limit for the game and stuff like that. It's going to be pretty cool. Okay, so that's the challenge task done. And if you're interested in playing the game, you can go to the description and find this link over here. Then there's going to be the full game for you to play. Anyway, so that's the first ever lesson for you to learn programming. I hope this is interesting for you. And we're going to be having more lessons in the future as well. So if you check the playlist of our channel, there's going to be going to be a couple more lessons for you to try out, which is also based on Makecode or other programming languages, possibly like Scratch, or even if you want to go a little bit more advanced, we can do that after you get used to Makecode, which is the basics of programming. Okay, so I hope you like this video. Make sure to give a like, you subscribe to our channel, you can comment what you think. Any questions that you want to ask, you can comment down below in the video, in the comment section. Okay, and we hope to see you next time in our videos. Okay, see ya.